Hello and welcome to Run It Back on the Raptors Republic Network. I'm your host, Zulfi Sheikh, as always, joined by Kyle Ramnarine and Coty Wiles. I should stop saying as always because we kind of get separated once in a while because, life gets a little hard, boys. But Kyle, how you doing, man?
I thought I mute my mic real quick, but I'm doing great. Doing great. Excited to talk to you guys. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, but just watching that Raptors basketball. Excited for everything.
Yeah, man, it's that early season grind. The weather's getting to all of us, I think. It's starting to get really cold here in Toronto. I'm sure out in Western Canada, it's already been cold, so they don't want to hear us complaining. But Cody, how are you doing? You're going back to Western Canada, so you got to get ready for that.
Yeah, been getting ready for that, and yes, it has been cold over there. It's supposed to be like nice in Toronto the next like week or two. It's supposed to be like what plus like 5, 6, 7. So yeah, I'm gonna be heading back into like minus 15, minus 20. I think it's been consistently around there. So yeah, the little sick as well. So we're getting through, but gotta talk Raptors basketball. Can't miss it.
Yeah, like I said, best coverage there is on Raptors Republic, and look at the boys grinding it out for you guys to get the best coverage out there. With that being said, it's going to be another week of Raptors coverage from us as well, where we give our takeaways from the week, cover the 905. It's been a very busy and exciting week for the 905, so I think we're all excited to talk about that, and then our schedule ahead like usual. But remember always to like, share, and subscribe. Leave your thoughts in the comments if you thought anything was interesting this week. Really does help the channel grow, and we want to keep reaching out to new people. But with that being said, let's get into it and let's run it back. All right, heading into our schedule recap, the Raptors continued a 5-game homestand this week, playing 3 games at Scotiabank Arena. And it was a week full of homecomings as Toronto welcomed Pascal Siakam and the Indiana Pacers, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Dallas Mavericks to town. Now we start by taking on the Pacers, who have not looked all that great this season. The top offense from last year, more middle of the pack now, and the Raptors took full advantage of that early on, especially the duo of Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett. Now, Scotty scored a career high 35 points, making 13 of 20 shots while dishing 9 assists and grabbing 6 rebounds. Now, although he did finish with 7 turnovers and he mentioned he was not happy about that after the game, he was still impacting things in so many ways to make up for it as he was a plus 18. Now, RJ Barrett was also stellar as he finished with 29 points, getting to the rim as he does, while also getting to the free throw line, converting a team high 9 free throws on 12 attempts. Now, the Raptors were cruising for the most part, but the Pacers did make things interesting in the fourth, largely thanks to Tyrese Halliburton, who had one of his best road games of the season. Now, he finished with 30 points, knocking down 4 threes and dishing out 6 assists. Toronto's once 24-point lead was down to just 2 points midway through the fourth, but the Raptors did show plenty of poise that you probably wouldn't have seen from them earlier in the season. Ochai Agbaji knocked down a triple. He was a perfect 3 for 3 from downtown in this one to extend the Raptors' lead as they held on. Now, it was the fourth straight home win for Toronto, while the Indiana Pacers lose their 7th consecutive road loss. Again, tough sledding for the Pacers lately. Now, this was an NBA Cup group game, but it was pretty inconsequential. Both teams were already eliminated to this point. Now, if the Pacers win was one of the highest highs of the season, then losing to the Thunder was one of the lowest lows, at least statistically speaking. Considering OKC is elite on both ends of the floor, leading the West in wins, and they're the top defense, now it's not a surprise they had their way with Toronto, although still disappointing. Leading the charge was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, shout out to Hamilton, as SJ popped off for 30 points despite making just one of his 10 3-point attempts. He was still masterful in the mid-range and finished a plus 28 on the night. Now, the Raptors offense struggled right out the gates, missing 16 of their first 20 shots while getting outscored by 17 points in the first 12 minutes. And that was the theme all night as they lost every quarter. The Thunder forced 20 turnovers for 28 points as they cruised to the big win. And not a lot went right for the Raptors, to be quite honest. They shot a season low from downtown at 24%, and it officially goes down as their biggest loss of the season to this point. Now, from there, the Raptors got a couple days to reset and welcome Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving from the Dallas Mavericks to town. And those two were up to their usual antics, to be honest. Starting with Kyrie, who was on a heater early, just knocking down practically every shot he took. He scored 14 points in the first quarter alone, and he finished with 29. Meanwhile, Luka was a wizard like always, throwing some truly just obscene passes, finding Kyrie with it behind the back, over his head pass, then throwing a half-court chest pass to the corner for a three. Just some, again, ridiculous stuff going on from Luka. And he finished with a triple-double before the third quarter had even ended. He remains one of the biggest Raptors killers, at least actively. He's putting up just under 30 points against Toronto for his career. Now, the Raps did make things interesting after trailing by as many as 24 points, chipping away in the second half. Point guard Scotty was stellar as he's been the last couple of games, making reads and passing with so much confidence. Now, he finished with a career high 14 assists, a lot of them coming to Jakob Poeltl in the short roll, who was practically automatic in that area. He finished with 20 points on 7 of 11 shooting. Meanwhile, Grady Dick, in just a second game back from injury, may not have been all that stellar efficiency-wise, 8 of 21 from the field, hitting 5 of 14 from downtown, but he was big time in the clutch. Now, there's this 1-3 where he curled into it and hit just a ridiculously tough shot. It was in the final 2 minutes. It cut the Mavericks lead down to 5. And Grady did end up finishing with a team high 27 points. Again, a good bit of confidence despite the lack of efficiency. Now, unfortunately, the Raptors didn't get any closer after that, however, as some tough reviews on a goaltend and a defensive foul went against them and essentially iced the game. There was a bit of a foul disparity all night between the Raptors and the Mavericks. Fans were clearly not very happy about that, but a tough loss at the end of it. All in all, the Raptors finished the week at 1-2 as their record moves to 7-17, now tied with the Charlotte Hornets for second last in the Eastern Conference. Now let's break it all down. All right, boys, another week has gone by of Raptors action. 1-3, so they still did pick up a win. It wasn't a winless week. That's good to say, at least. But I think it was an interesting week in terms of the conversations that were surrounding this team and what's going on. So, Kyle, I'll start with you. What was your big takeaway coming out of this week?
For me, so it's two different things. Right off the bat, I want to say this might be a hot take. I don't know if I'm gonna get shredded on Twitter for this. I probably will. But for me, early All Star talks, if we have one choice from the team, I would say Scotty. I would say not Scotty. I would say RJ Barrett.
I was gonna say that doesn't sound like a very hot take, Kyle.
No,
it's a very reasonable take.
My bad. It's that flu getting into me. It's cooking my brain. But RJ Barrett. I would say RJ Barrett. Obviously, I would love to have both of them in the All-Star game, but say if we only have one choice, I would say RJ because again, he's been playing great all season. He's been there for most of the games, and that's probably what does it for me. He's been like the injury hasn't been as bad for him as it been with Scotty, and I feel like if Scotty was there again, less injury riddled, I should say, he would take that spot. But I don't know. How do you guys feel about that take? Do you think it's a hot take? Do you think I'm about to get cooked over this, or? You can say yes. You can say yes.
We both have some thoughts.
I mean, my biggest takeaway this week was Scotty Barnes and how well he's played. Did he not just set a career high in assists and points this week? Did I just
career
forget?
High 35 in scoring against the Thunder, and then career high 14 assists against the Mavericks the game after. It's been a good week for Scotty, I'll say that.
Kyle's picking a wild week to bring this take up, by the way. But yeah, my biggest takeaway has been Scotty Barnes, and it kind of leads into this tanking conversation as well. But he's been phenomenal, guys, since he's come back. He's since his 9 games back from injury, nearly 22 points, over 9 rebounds, nearly 9 assists. That's been the biggest thing because they've been basically running him at point guard, and he's been fantastic. He truly is one of the best passers in the entire world. He's averaging over a steal a game, a block per game as well. Shooting splits are great. He's been shooting the 3 a bunch, maybe not converting on a bunch quite yet, but he has been launching them. Kyle, kind of a wild take this week. I think Scotty's been great. All meanwhile, really changing the identity of their defense. They've had a couple tough games this week, but that hasn't stopped Scotty from being great.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards Coty's side on this, Kyle. If you want to go for most consistent Raptor, I guess I can give that to RJ Barrett for sure, and that does you should give him credit for that for this season. But yeah, Scotty, since coming back from injury, has been phenomenal. Again, like you mentioned, Coty, point guard Scotty is just really changed the complexion of this team. Kelly Olynyk talked about it, and he made his return this week as well. And he mentioned how Scotty Barnes playing with him, you're kind of just seeing him pick out plays and be able to make passes before the action even develops. And that's just showing the growth of Scotty Barnes. And he's just that's something not many players in this league can do, especially not at his size. RJ Barrett mentioned it too. Is you have a guy who can make those passes and he can look over the defense. It's a cheat code, right? So now that Scotty's getting comfortable in playing like that, and he's bringing all the stuff that he does as a scorer and on defense, I think it's really hard not to see stardom for Scotty and not get excited about it. So yes, RJ Barrett has been fantastic. And I think if the Raptors were really good and you could justify 2 All-Stars, yes, quite honestly right now, you can barely justify 1. Scotty Barnes is going to have a hard time getting in. There's been injuries in the East, and that does help a little bit. But I think based on the team's record, it is still going to be a fight for Scotty Barnes to get in. But I think if I had to pick one, I would go with Scotty to this point. Kyle, you're trying to counter.
I wanna emphasize too, like before the Raptors fans hop, skip, and jump to conclusions. I'm not saying Scotty is bad. I'm not saying he's been playing bad.
No,
Or
that's exactly what you're
like,
saying. No, that's
Yeah, you,
that's
you
exact.
basically call
like
Scotty's
I'm,
trash.
I'm not saying he's a horrible player and we should build around RJ. Like honestly, yeah, it's hard. But when I was looking at it, I was like, okay, for me, it was the consistency. That's what it mainly came down for me. To just be, he's been there from the start too, and I feel like in a way to that, and I don't want to say like rewarded because I feel like Scotty shouldn't get punished for being injured because it wasn't his fault, But for me, the consistency is like why I should think he should make the game. He's been consistently good for the Raptors. He's proven, he's shown how much he's grown from New York to now. And if we could choose both of them for the game, I love that. But for me, like RJ and that Osmos, that combination, he's been going crazy. He's been going crazy. But the other thing I want to get into too, and I know we're gonna talk about this, or we should get into this right now, is the tanking conversations. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen the poll go up. Should the Raptors start tanking? And it was like 67% said yes. And I don't get it. I don't understand why we should start tanking, because for me, I love watching this team play. This team is such a competitive and fun team to watch. Yes, they're not the greatest. Yes, they're not going to go out there and win the championship. But is that such a bad thing? You're seeing what this team can do with the cards they're dealt, and they're playing competitive games. They're playing to the end. They're not just giving up. And I feel like once you give into the, okay, yeah, we should tank, then it makes the games way more boring. You know what the outcome is going to be. The guys aren't trying. And it's like, Zulfi said it before. Look at the Detroit Pistons. They were quote unquote tanking and they didn't even get the first pick in the draft. So how would that really even help the team? I feel like playing the way we are right now is the most beneficial thing we can do.
Yeah, look, I think the interesting part of this conversation is like, what does tanking guarantee you? Not a whole lot. What it gives you a good chance at a lottery pick, and depending on where you finish, it kind of lessens the odds of how far you're dropped in the lottery for a player. But this team, quite frankly, is just too good to tank. Over their last 10 games, they're basically playing 500 ball. They've been pretty much middle of the pack offensively and defensively. And then we've talked about this, Coty. You brought this up a bunch. Against the spread, this team is the second best team in the league. They just compete the entire time. And this is without their team being full strength. This is without Bruce Brown being back. Kelly Olynyk just got back. You still don't have Emmanuel quickly back. What is that team going to look like at full strength? We don't know yet. That's something we've actually had to see from them that we want to see. And like, without even all that, they are still way too good in a lot of these games, and the schedule is going to start getting easier. Like that back of the schedule in March is really ugly and is not great teams that you're going to be playing. So I think that's part of it. The other part of it is like the teams above you are going to start probably dropping off. The Nets are probably going to pull the plug soon. They've been really good, but they have guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, Dennis Schroeder, Cam Johnson. You're probably going to look at trading them. You have the Pacers who are free falling right now. The teams below you just straight up suck. The Jazz are awful. The Wizards had lost, was it 15, 16 in a row until they just won a game. And then the Pelicans are in this injury-riddled free fall themselves. So, like, are you probably going to catch those teams? I don't think that's really likely. So my thing is, like, I don't like the idea of tanking if you're doing it with the intentionality of we're going to sit guys, we're going to fake injuries, that type of thing. If you are doing it the way that's going now, like where they've been in competitive games and ending up on the wrong side of the box score, that's fine. The whole ethical tank thing, I'm for it. I think it doesn't take away the development you're getting along the way. But if you get to the point where you're too good and that you have to start losing games by either sitting these guys out and taking away development reps or trading away a Jakob Poeltl, which we've talked about ad nauseum, is just so important to these guys' development, I don't like that idea at all. I think that just strips away all the progress you made for a chance of a draft pick that may or may not even work out how you want it to.
Even if you do want to tank, you're not out tanking the Washington Wizards. I'm sorry. Like they had lost 16 straight until miraculously they beat the Denver Nuggets with a Nikola Jokic career high at points. You were just not out tanking that team, even if you wanted to out tank them. I think it would just hurt the squad. This is a team that has been plagued by injuries since they've acquired RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly. They've barely seen barbecue together. Like there hasn't been a barbecue yet this year. It's getting cold out now. I don't know. We might have to pack it in for the year. The barbecue's going inside, but yeah. So I want to see these guys play together and see what we got. Like it seems like Masai has really done well at this draft here now. Like we got a young core that's coming together and playing well, and they're getting reps everywhere down with the 905. They're in the rotation right now with the injuries. So, and they're just going to keep getting healthier. Like you guys have been saying, like Bruce Brown has yet to make his debut. Kelly Olynyk just made his debut. Grady Dick even missed a couple of games and is now back. So if it means they're going to win games, it means the kids are playing well, and it means they're doing well. So I don't see how you could be upset about that.
Yeah, if the cost of not getting this potentially high draft pick, which again, it's a lottery, it still could happen. Obviously, you don't bank on that based on where your position is, but if the cost of that is getting these development reps and seeing the steps forward, which we've seen so many steps from so many players this season forward individually, granted, it hasn't led to the wins. I think that's a risk worth taking. And I know people like to counter with the whole like Masai Ujiri quote when he said playing for what? We're not trying to be a play-in team. He said that earlier on. But like I think there was a big difference at people's criticism of that team with an aging core of Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, guys where you more or less knew their ceiling and you knew it wasn't going to be that championship type roster you had. And middling with that team versus this team that is much younger, where the potential and the limits of it is kind of more unknown. Like what Scotty Barnes has done to this part has completely exceeded expectations. And based on the way he's like going, you don't know how high that ceiling is with him. You still don't know the ceiling really for a guy like Emmanuel Quickly, especially with Scotty Barnes. RJ Barrett, for the most part, you know him as a player, but he's even taking leaps. You have all these younger players like Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter, and the rest of these rookies. You do not know how far that ceiling is going to take them. So I think like banking on this core to kind of get through that, even if it's risking another draft pick, I think makes a lot more sense than it did with that previous core. So I don't want to compare the two. So I think that's kind of the main thing I want to get out of this is like there's so much to learn here, and risking a lot of that or slowing it down for this chance that isn't going to guarantee you anything, I don't think is worth it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Oh damn! I left you guys speechless. I'll take it.
Yeah, same. Like I don't think this team should just be tanking just to tank at the chance to get a high draft pick because that's never guaranteed. You know, and I like the way the team's playing right now. If we get a high pick while playing the right way, like it's a win-win on both sides. You get to see competitive basketball, and you don't get to see like games that no one wants to watch. You know.
I will say things can change though. Like by the time the trade deadline comes, who knows what happens? And teams have pulled the Raptors have done it before too, where it's just we're not rushing anybody back and whatnot. And the last 15, 20 games could go pretty poorly if they so chose. So it's early in the year. This is a good chance to let the guys play, but it's a conversation that's going to be on the table all year, unfortunately. So let's put a plug in it now because I think we could go in for hours about this.
Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about it a lot more, but that's just the reality of being a young team that's rebuilding, again, by the admission of the front office. That is true, and it's a really good draft class by all accounts, so totally understand it. We'll be talking about it more, and like you said, Cody, things can change pretty quick, but I'm going to throw it back to you guys. Any other key takeaways or thoughts that stuck out? Kyle, anything else that you saw you want to talk about?
Nothing too crazy that I've noticed. Just seeing besides like Kelly coming back, just getting in the groove of things. You know, seeing the team type of get or like gel together, but nothing too crazy that I've noticed.
Cody, anything for you?
Yeah, pretty similar to me. Nice to see Jakob come back from the illness and play well. Grady putting up 27 against the Dallas Mavericks. He played well coming back off that calf. So it's same old. Keep trugging along. 7-17 for the Toronto Raptors, and as we head into another week.
Yeah, again, they're starting to kind of pick things up. Their defense is turning a corner a little bit, which is nice. I think that's good to see. The offense is starting to kind of muddle, but like with Scotty doing his thing as the point guard, it's starting to look a bit better too, which is good as well. But my biggest thing is just I think this is the longest homestand they've had to start the season so far. It's been like 5 games in a row at home, which is kind of nice. Again, this has been a really weird schedule for the Raptors to start. A lot of back-to-backs, a lot of West teams mixed in, not what you typically expect. So it's nice that they had a bit of a homestand. It's nice that you could see some of the stars come to Toronto and make the most out of that situation. I know Drake was there in attendance when the SGA and the Thunder were in town, so that's always fun to have the Canadians back, and SGA popped off. So it's good. Having more basketball in this city is good, and I was glad to see the guys back in. But I think we're going to pivot now to the G League because it was a pretty fun week for the 905 and our 905 report. And again, best coverage for the Raptors 905 and G League is right here at Raptors Republic. We spend a lot of time, a lot of hours grinding 905 and G League stuff. So hopefully people enjoy it. And I think they do. But for the 905, a quick summary. The homestand did continue. 4 games this week for the 905. They did go 1-3, so it wasn't the best in terms of win-losses. I know we're getting used to saying that for this organization right now. But there were some pretty big performances to stand out. We had Eugene Omarui. He had a couple really big games. He had a 29-point game earlier, and then he had a 28-point game today at the day of recording Sunday against the Westchester Knicks. Dylan Dessou popped off for a game. But I think the biggest takeaway was the Raptors rookies pulling double duty for a little bit. and they came down against the Greensboro Swarm. And after a 35-point loss the game before, when you add these Raptors rookies, it translated into a 43-point win against one of the top defenses and top teams in the league. It was a season high in points for the 905 while allowing a season low in points. A pretty good outcome overall. Coty, you and I were at that game, so I'm just going to throw this to you right away. Well, what really stood out to you from that big win against the Swarm with having the rookies there?
Yeah, it was fun. And first of all, it was loud and it was very fun. They broke the G League record attendance in that game, which was already held by the 905. I believe it was 19,257, right? Yeah, 19,257 screaming elementary school kids at the top of their lungs. Last year I was in attendance for the game as well, and Grady Dick happened to be down with the team, so you can imagine how the kids were loving screaming Dick. Anyways, yeah, it's been a tough homestand overall, not just this week. 2-5 in the homestand. The 9-5 have now lost 4 of their last 5 games, but the one they did win was at Scotiabank Arena, and yeah, they got their get back after losing to Greensboro by 35. They absolutely responded, and yes, the rookies, the Raptors rookies, the quartet of Jays, all of them were down there, but they didn't even really play too much in that one specifically. Jameson Battle had the most run with 20 minutes. He hit 4 threes, so 14 points. But like Mobo only played 12 minutes. Jacoby Walter only played 13 minutes. It really was like Eugene Omarori and Dylan Dessou who really carried the torch in that game. But you could tell with those rookies there, they just got such solid minutes out of them. Like if they were to all typically be playing down at the 905, the team would not be 3-9 right now with the third worst record in the G League. It's, it just so happens that they need them with the Raptors in the big club, but the 905 should be getting better here as the time goes on, and the tip-off tournament is about to conclude. So going forward, the 905 should be better, but yeah, some more losses piling up here for the team.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point about the fact that they didn't play a ton in that game, but the impact was clear from those guys. Like they weren't really controlling the show, but they were getting what they wanted out of those minutes. I think you and me talked about it, Coty, when we were there. Just like the shots that Jamal Shed was getting up, just no hesitation. He had a couple step back threes, just one dribble to the right, and then pulling up for a shot. That's the reps that they want out of him, right? They want Jamal Shed to be able to show that he can shoot at that level. And then you had guys like, again, Jacoby Walter. It was interesting from him, not the greatest offensive game, very high plus minus because defense was his thing out there. He was really good on the perimeter. And I think even before the game, I was watching him, he wasn't there taking warm-up jumpers. He was there working on closeouts because that's what the 905 is for him. It's to get those reps in defensively. That's what the Raptors want from him because they know offensively what his capabilities are. So I think all these guys were getting the most out of those reps and working on specific things, and the impact was completely evident of that. Like, again, Jamal Shed didn't play a ton, but Eugene Omarui having that pop-off game, how many of those baskets just came off a Jamal Shed pass right under the basket, right? Like setting him up. Jamal needs to be a table setter. That's kind of what you want to see from him. So I think the impact in those minutes was really awesome to see. And I know, Kyle, you specifically wanted to talk about Shed and the type of game that he had and kind of his impact with this 905 ball club. So tell us a bit about what you saw.
I love what I saw. He might not have been shooting the best, but his playmaking ability, everything we've been saying for weeks now about him, just displayed in that game. And what impressed me the most, he had 12 assists, 0 turnovers. That's a fantastic game. You didn't throw 1 turnover, plus 22. Like, I feel like, and playing in the Scotiabank Arena too, I know the 4Js, they've gotten their minutes in the arena, but the other players that don't usually get to go up there and play, like, this was such a great learning experience for them too, being under those lights, being in that type of environment. This is kind of why I love the 905 so much, giving these guys these reps, giving these guys their ability to grow and find their role in the G League or in the NBA. And overall with Jamal, like, great game. Everything I saw from him, like, energy up, the passing, like, you guys already took the words out of my mouth. Like, I was just super impressed with the whole team when I was watching this game.
Yeah.
Coty,
that was the best game of the year by them by far. And then it's been one of their 3 wins. Outside of that, it's been a bit of a struggle. Like even today, Jamal Shed and Jameson battled down with the team. And they still weren't able to come out with the dub. But yeah, it's what they're doing with the team, which is exactly what you want to see. Battle 15 3-pointers today. Didn't convert necessarily on a high clip of them, only cashing in on 4, but he went for a 20 burger. Jamal Shed taking a lot of pull-up threes today. He took a couple where it was like, oh, wow, okay. And they were good shots. It was just they were rimming out. He also dropped the 20 burger. Didn't necessarily – he was playmaking. Like, he's such a good playmaker down at the G League level. Like, even at at Scotiabank. Like these, seeing these guys play against G League competition is like nothing for them.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
they really, you can really tell that they're just working on exactly what the Raptors want them to work on. So the 9 to 5 is serving its purpose. It doesn't matter if the team's winning games, obviously, but it is still fun to. I think winning breeds culture. It means they're playing the right way, and I mean, we'd rather win than not win, right? So I know the G League doesn't really mean anything, but they got some good players down there, man, especially when the rookies are down there.
Yeah, like I think we talked about it then as well during the game, Coty. Like it's interesting to see how like these rookies have been kind of thrown into the fire with the actual NBA Raptors roster with all these injuries. They were playing like serious rotation minutes, and then to go from that environment to then go down to the G League, like it's like it's the opposite of taking the training wheels off. Like you've just been through the mud already, and then you're
Yeah.
gonna have to go and play these G League guys. Like no disrespect to that competition, but these Raptors rookies have now just been seasoned. They've been thrown into the fire and everything. So it was just like a completely different level to see, and like it just shows that they are ready for NBA minutes and they're making the most of it. But these reps are important, like you said. Like with Jamison Battle, it was kind of similar to Grady Dick. His time in the G League last year wasn't all that great, but you knew what he was down there to work on. And when he got to the NBA level, it started translating a bit. So Jamal Shed, we've seen in his last couple NBA games, he's had pretty good stretches shooting threes. It didn't look that great in the G League all that much efficiency wise, but he was clearly making the most of those reps, and it's translating at some point. So it is good to see that these guys are getting that development out of it. But the 905 deserve love beyond that because there have been some really fun players stepping up on a consistent basis. So I think, Coty, you and I may share the player we want to highlight here, but I'll throw it to you. Is there a guy you want to just like step up and say this guy's been really hooping for the 905?
Hey, I'll say somebody different because I know who you're going to go with. So I'll spread the love even more. I want to go Quincy Guerrier, the Montreal, Quebec native who kind of the unsung hero a lot of the time. He was out of the lineup for a couple of games because he was on FIBA duty in Saskatoon for Team Canada, where I talked to him when I think Zulfi, you were there as well. We were both talking to him about his experience with the Canada team, and he said he was defending 1 through 5, and then you talked to Coach Drew Jones about it. He was like, usually players come back from that type of experience and want to talk about their offense and their points, but he brought up the defense and how he was on that end, which was impressive to hear from Coach Jones. 14.5 points per game for Guerrier. The 3-point shot is going to be big for him because I think he can defend multiple positions. He's got long arms. He can finish. He hit like a step back crazy 3 at the shot clock buzzer today, which was encouraging. Only just under 22% from 3-point line this season. We'd like to see that come up, but he rebounds the heck out of the ball, 7 boards a game, one of the best rebounders on the team, defends multiple positions. The 9-5 had a lot of these guys like Dessou, Obarui, Guerrier, Charlie Brown Jr. I mean, Mobo when he's down. A lot of these like longer forwards who like to rebound and play some defense. So I just wanted to give the Montreal Quebec native a little love because he's been an unsung hero for this team.
Yeah, that 3 he hit in their last 905 game made it very interesting. So that was a pretty big time shot to hit with the clock winding down. But Kyle, a guy you've kind of mentioned a couple times, and I'm assuming you're going to mention again, is Kennedy Chandler. Why do you want to keep singing his praises? Tell us about it.
It's just he's just been fantastic for me. I'll list the like his stat lines for the last 4 games from this week. You know, the first time against the Swarms, he had 21 points, 4 assists, and then the rematch against the Swarms, 16 points, 14 assists, 0 turnovers, 3 for 4 from 3, and then against the Knicks, 26 points, 6 assists. So he's consistently just been great for the team. You know, he's shown off his playmaking ability, shown off his ability to shoot from beyond the arc. The only thing I can nitpick from his game, though, some of these games he's hitting the 4 foul mark, the 5 foul mark. So kind of some avoidable fouls he's been committing, but for me at least, he's showing promise. He's showing promise to the team that he can be a reliable scorer, that he can be someone that can pass the ball. And I was going to ask you guys too, do you think we could see maybe some Kenny Chandler minutes with the Big Boy Club this year? Maybe not immediately or later on this season.
Oh, 100%. I think he's up there right now for pushing, one of the players pushing for a 2-way spot. He's probably the favorite to push for a roster spot. I mean, Jamison Battle is coming close to his he's probably a little over, maybe around halfway now for his max games played on a 2-way. They want to convert him. Somebody from this 905 team is going to get called up, whether it's going to be Kennedy Chandler, Eugene Omarui, Quincy Guerrier. They had just reacquired Jared Roden, who didn't play today, but he is another really good player who was in camp with the Raptors. They wanted him to come down to the 905, but ended up getting claimed on waivers by the Hornets. But yeah, Chandler leads the team in points, 20 a game. He's shooting over 50% from the field, over 40% from 3. He's starting to get that 3-point volume up. He gets to the, he's so quick. His first step is wildly quick. He's able to get to the paint, playing for others, nearly 8 assists per game. And then he's been finishing at the rim decently as well, despite the size, which is really good to see. That'll be a big jump in the NBA, and that's where he kind of struggled in the NBA with, bigger bigs, better defenders and whatnot. But he's been fantastic. I've loved what I've seen from Kennedy Chandler.
All right, I'm just going to address this, boys. I hate technology. I got cut off, so I'm going to completely restart what I was saying and make this easier for everyone in the process. But basically, Kennedy Chandler has been awesome. He's had to do a bit of everything for the Raptors 905 team, from coming off the bench when the Raptors guys are there, from starting next to DJ Carden and being off the ball, to then being all the ball and handling all those duties when Carden's been injured. But another guy I really do want to highlight from this 905 roster is Dylan Dessou. Coty, whenever you and I have watched him, we have just sung his praises because of just like the tall, athletic forward that he is. But now he's starting to get really comfortable in this offense, finding his spots to take his shots. Again, 8 of 9 against the Greensboro Swarm when he was starting with the rest of the Raptors rookies, I think says a lot. Obviously, that was a bit of a heat check moment, but asking him about it after the game, he was confident. He's like, I know I can shoot. I started a little slow to begin the season, but he's like, even going back to Texas, he feels confident in his ability to shoot. And just the fact that he was with those Raptors rookies is, I think, a testament to kind of the game that he's developed and the respect this coaching staff has in him. And to not only just be in that spot, but to shine with those guys there and be that glue between the Raptors guys and the 905 roster, I think says something. And when I asked Drew Jones about it, he said it was a no-brainer. I wanted him in the starting lineup. Earlier, Shamshay was out for a couple of games sick, and he knew immediately Dessou was the guy he wanted in there because he knows how to play within the scheme. He rebounds the ball very aggressively. Again, he's a super athlete, and he just fits what they want to do, and he's just been awesome for them. I think he's a guy that we should definitely be looking at in terms of playing a big role for this 905 team as the season goes on. And again, he's just been everything they've wanted and more so far. Coty, I think you probably agree with me here.
Yeah. He also said after that game, don't let the percentages fool you. So I went back and I was like, okay, so what did he shoot in college? Because the 3-point shot is massive for him because he's kind of that 6'8", 6'9", basically plays like a center. And there's some role questions like, what are you in the NBA? Like, can you, at Texas, he played as a small ball 5. Can he do that in the NBA? In the G League, he's shown athleticism to finish plays, block shots. So maybe there's a possibility, but he's just going to be undersized a lot of the time. So can he shoot the 3 and slide up to the 4? Well, in college, took a big jump in his final season at Texas, 45% from 3 on 3.5 attempts from distance. It was much more. It was the best we've seen from him behind the line at Texas. And he's got to keep it up. So far, he goes 8 of 9 in the Greensboro game. Didn't shoot the best. The next game, I believe he went 1 for 6. So the consistency is obviously something that has plagued him in college. Before he went up to 45%, he was 13%, 31%, 29.5% at these college years. So it's something that he's going to have to iron out consistently. On the year with the 905, he's hitting 41.5% right now. Obviously, the Greensboro Swarm game was a big boost to those numbers. I believe he was shooting like 33 or so % going into that game. So want to see the consistency iron out, but he's been great. He's starting at the big spot when Ulrich isn't there. It's great that they're getting play from him because Brandon Carlson was signed and scooped up by the Oklahoma City Thunder. So it's nice to know that they have a little bit more depth there, and he's been big for them when he's on the court.
Yeah, again, a lot of fun players that are consistently with this 905 roster. Again, while they're on this homestand, please get out and watch them a little bit. They are a very fun team. Again, they did lose to the Westchester Knicks on the day of recording this, but they made a comeback. Again, Eugene Omarui was awesome. It was a fun game. They did have Jamal Shed and Jamison Battle. So while they get those reps or not, there's some fun players on 905. And you never know. As the season progresses, we may see them on the Raptors roster. So unless the internet hates me some more and I get cut off again, I'm going to try to transition into the schedule look ahead for next week, boys. And it's a pretty light week for the Raptors, just 2 games. I think the whole NBA Cup knockout round probably has a big part to do with that. But they wrap up the homestand by welcoming OG Anunoby and the Knicks to town. And then they head to South Florida to take on the Miami Heat for what I'm pretty sure is the 3rd time in like the last 2 weeks they faced the Heat. They really are playing them a lot lately, which is kind of interesting. But I'll throw it to you guys, Coty, with you. What do you have your eyes on this week for the Raptors?
You know what? I was torn for this because I really wasn't sure. I've been saying like every week it's just like just keep playing with keep doing what we're doing, competitive losses. Like your guys are in every game, keep doing that. So I was really lost. So I'm just gonna go for fun, and I don't want to see OG Anunoby do anything. I want to see just lock up OG Anunoby. Let RJ Barrett cook. I want specifically on Monday, the day this drops, for RJ Barrett to win the head-to-head with OG. That's all. There's only 2 games this week. Not really much you can look at. Let's just do that. Win the head-to-head. Maybe with a win too. That would be nice. But I want to stamp. Prove we won the trade, right? I mean, that's RJ Barrett outplays OG Anunoby in this game. We win the trade, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, fair. I mean, we're near the 1-year anniversary. People are going to start asking who won, who lost that trade. So it'll be interesting to see. And shout out to what OG Anunoby has become as a player for us to be saying we want to have him locked up on as an offensive player. That just
He's
shows
been really good.
He's coming off a career high 40 points not that long ago.
Yeah.
He's added a lot to his bag. He's hitting some step back jumpers now, kind of like driving in and getting those middies to go. Again, a lot of improvement from OG Anunoby, and we know how special he is on the defensive end. Kyle, what are you looking at this week?
Yeah, Coty just robbed me because like I was excited for the Knicks game. I'm gonna be writing that recap tomorrow for Raptors Republic, and I was just excited to see OG come back against the Raptors. I'm more of like storylines wise, narrative wise, just him coming up against the Raptors. I'm curious to see how the Raptors are gonna take on like this Knicks team with Cat now. I want to see if Jakob can lock him up a bit, bro. We ain't afraid of Cat. We're not afraid of Cat down here. But overall, it's just like nothing too crazy. Just the Knicks game I have my eyes on just to see how we match up against them. I'm pretty sure we can get this dub again against the Miami Heat. I feel like we kind of I don't want to say figure them out after that first loss against them, but I'm not really too worried. I feel like this should be a 2-0 week for the Raptors, hopefully. Big predictions.
The schedule's been so weird, man. Oh wow. Hey, maybe this with the way they're playing, like the schedule's been so weird, man. Like, why are they playing the Heat for the 3rd time in a week?
Yeah,
literally, they played the first game on November 29th, and it's gonna be December 12th when they play them. So literally under 2 weeks. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, don't quote me on this, but I think this was one of the games that was added to the schedule after the whole NBA Cup round was finalized. So maybe that's why. But again, there had to be a way to avoid having it be the Heat, I would think. But yeah, I don't want to lament on that more. Honestly, I don't think any of us are focused or want to talk about the Heat game because it is the 3rd time in 2 weeks. So I'm also thinking about the Knicks game. Obviously, OG Anunoby coming back to town, but this Knicks offense is legit. Like, it is the number 1 offense in the league right now, and it has been for a couple of weeks. And just what Karl-Anthony Towns added to his team is a complete different level. You've seen OG Anunoby in the strides he's taking. Like, you have Mikal Bridges, a guy who's basically become a bit more 3-and-D with the Knicks than he was with the Nets. So there's a lot of layers to this team. And I'm not saying the Raptors defense is elite, but they have started turning the corner. Again, they're playing around middle of the pack 500 ball in terms of a defense. So if they are continuing to turn that corner and take strides, this is a really big game. You saw them have some success against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And again, you kind of knew what their scheme was. They're going to try to get up a lot of threes. And this team focused on perimeter defense in the offseason coming in. Didn't necessarily work against the Celtics. I mean, that was a pretty interesting game. There was a Jason Tatum buzzer beater that kind of took it to win. But I still think they found some success there as well. So while they didn't win those games, you saw they were able to kind of match up to the schemes of these really good offenses. So I want to see if you can continue that against this Knicks team. It's a big test for your defense. And whether you win or lose, do you kind of come out and succeed in some regard, I think is what we're all kind of hoping for out of this Raptors team. So I want to see a bit more of that of this defense and see what comes from it. But
yeah, they're going to see these Knicks again. Like they continue on with the schedule shenanigans. They play them 3 times in the next month. Like I get it, they're in your division, you play them a bunch, but like, I don't know why I'm so bad.
Did the NBA just Did the NBA just give up this year making the schedule and just? I mean, I'm assuming they always just throw it into like a computer algorithm, but I feel like even the computer algorithm didn't care this year. Like, you know how sometimes when you like shuffle.
Yeah, isn't there a sport where like it's like handmade by people? Is it the
schedule?
I don't know.
Yeah, isn't it the MLB or the NFL? I don't know. Like, there's like I thought there's people who I think it might be the NFL where it's just like this.
Well, they have schedule makers, yeah, because they flex games and stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So maybe that is it. But like, you know how like when you shuffle a deck, but then there's still like you hand out your cards to your friends you're dealing, and there's still like 4 4s together, and you're like, what happened? It's kind of what it feels like. The NBA clicked the random generator for the schedule, and they didn't actually review it to see that there's so many games together.
The NBA Cup probably plays a part in that
Yeah,
too.
that's what I'm thinking too. I feel like the NBA Cup kind of messed up the schedule a little bit. Just want to put these teams closer together.
Oh well, and then
All
they
right,
played
guys, way to make
Brooklyn like
sense.
they played Brooklyn twice this month. Like I'm done. I'm over it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. The schedule is going to continue to be weird for the Raptors. And will we continue to rant about the schedule? Maybe we start looking up who's actually making this thing and figure it out, some research into it. But until then, I think that pretty much wraps it up for this week for the Raptors. We hope you're caught up on everything in Raptors land, especially the schedule, since we just kept going on and on about it. But we'll be back next week to recap all the action once again. But until then, again, please make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video. We do want to keep continuing to grow this community, especially for us new faces in the Raptors Republic community, and reach out to more people and get them to see our content. And until we're back, obviously, Raptors Republic's YouTube channel will have daily content from other people for the recap. So please be sure to watch that. And then there's also RaptorsRepublic.com where you can get your daily breakdowns and analysis as well. So I hope everyone has a great week. For myself, Kyle, and Coty, we'll see you next time when we run it back. Peace.